Hello, folks. Hello, folks. Thanks for tuning into the live. We've got some news this morning in the YSL Young Thug trial. It seems like there's kind of a never ending circle of changes in this case, and we've got a new judge already. We had Judge Glanville recused from the case, and Judge Ingram was assigned to the case. But it turns out Judge Judge Ingram's former courtroom deputy is the deputy who's accused of having an inappropriate relationship with one of the defendants. Not one of the defendants on trial, but one of the defendants in the case, Chris Eppinger. So Judge Ingram recused herself this morning and said that given the fact that this former deputy could be called as a witness, she actually could be called as a witness too, because she was and various things. So she recused herself, and now the case has been reassigned to another judge. This is Paige Whitaker, and I saw that Thugger Daily brought up the flyer for her reelection campaign, and it turned out it was hosted by a number of defense attorneys, but three of them are actually on the case: David Botts, Bruce Harvey, and Brian Steele. So this is the new judge on the case. And I'm going to bring in Doug Weinstein to give us an update here on everything that's going on and just how he thinks things will go with this. So, Doug, thanks for joining us. I know you only have a few minutes, but what was I know we were talking yesterday about, I said something about, I wonder if she'll recuse. And you said, you're not sure she has a reason to recuse, but this just shows that, there's so many possible reasons and so many possible conflicts that could apply here. It seems like she, just came forward and said, hey, this could be an issue. I mean, do you agree with her decision to step down?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if a judge believes that there is a good reason for them to recuse under the Judicial Code of Conduct here in Georgia and their ethical canons, they really have an obligation to do so. So I certainly respect Judge Ingram for following those rules and those canons. And if she believes that the cause of her with her relationship with her deputy would be a reason to recuse, then I absolutely support that.
Do you have any experience with the new Judge Whitaker?
I personally do not. I've heard good things about her. I hear that she is a very, very smart judge. I know that she is a former prosecutor, but that's the case with I will even say most judges. That's
Yes.
just the way it works. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I would expect her to do a great job on this case.
And I know there maybe there'll be some questions raised from people about defense attorneys hosting a fundraiser for her, but at least in my experience, like in Orange County Superior Court, that's just the way it works. And if a judge recused herself or himself from every case that somebody who went to a fundraiser or supported their election went, I mean, they would just have to recuse themselves from everything. Is that the situation in Fulton County? Do you think there could be any
Yeah.
issues with the fact that the defense supported her like that?
Yeah, it's exactly the same way here in Fulton County. Attorneys of all stripes, including criminal defense attorneys, often will host fundraisers for judges or judicial candidates, or make contributions, and that's never been really that I've seen a basis for recusal in the past. I wouldn't expect it to be a basis here.
Right. And is it a safe bet that if we went into the list of attorneys that were on her fundraiser and went into their cases, if they've ever had a case with her, chances are she has made a ruling not in their favor? I mean, the idea that because they supported her fundraiser, she's just, beholden to them, that's pretty incorrect, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my experience that you may often donate to judges who one could even say frequently would rule against you. So I
Yeah.
don't think donations really affect their rulings. Maybe that sounds Pollyannish or naive, but I think that's the reality. They have a job
Yeah.
to do. If we have a good judge that's in place on the bench or a good candidate, then we certainly going to support that judge.
Yes. Yes. So going forward I guess it's just wait and see to see what Judge Whitaker does. Are you expecting her to issue some kind of scheduling order if she stays on the case, or are you planning to file your own motions that will trigger some kind of scheduling order?
Yeah, At some point, we are planning on filing a motion for a mistrial, but I'm kind of waiting to see what judge this lands with that sticks at this point
Yeah.
before I make that filing, or before we make that filing. So I suspect we are going to know a lot more before the end of this week as to
Yeah.
schedule.
We've got, I mean, what it's almost 2:45 in Atlanta. So maybe nothing today, but seems like something tomorrow or Friday from Judge Whitaker in terms of what are we doing with this case. I mean, it seems like all eyes in the Fulton County Judiciary have to be on this, right?
Yeah, I think we'll have some pretty clear guidance on what's next in this case by the end of this week. I would say that I'm very, very confident of that.
Yes. Yes. So are you still anticipating you'll have a filing by the end of the week, or will it depend on what shakes out with Judge Whitaker and the permanency of her appointment?
Yeah, that'll depend a little bit on what goes on this week, but at the present time, I'm still shooting for filing my motion this week.
Okay. And somebody asked in the comments, why not file for dismissal? Are you hoping that dismissal will be covered by the mistrial if you can get some kind of dismissal with prejudice through a mistrial, or is that another legal step that you need to take?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a basis just for jumping ahead and filing a dismissal at this point, but we take things one step at a time. So the next step here, based on what has happened in this case and the position that the prosecutor has put us in, is filing a motion for a mistrial. And then depending on how that shakes out, we'll see what steps are next after that. I think if there is a mistrial, double jeopardy should attach. So if we get a mistrial, then I would expect a motion from Mr. Kendrick, our team, seeking a plea in bar and a ruling of double jeopardy attaching.
Yes, yes. And do you still anticipate filing a motion for bail at the same time or about the same time?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
we are definitely filing a motion for bond at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Great, great. Well, I mean, I guess it's again just kind of wait and see to see what the judge does. But you guys have your plans in motion and are moving forward. How's everybody doing? I mean, are people excited about the prospects of the case, or?
Well, you know, I think we're excited.
Oh, you're still on.
Moving and resolving these issues. Oh,
yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear
okay,
you. We got the very end. We got the very end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like you're optimistic.
I should have focused my phone. Yeah, we're excited about moving forward and getting this, resolved. I mean, even if it gets to a jury, let's go and let's get there. Although we don't think that I'm just speaking for Mr. Kendrick, do not believe that that's appropriate at this time. We think there are multiple grounds for a mistrial at this point.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was talking to Max Shard yesterday, who was raising the question of, if you can't get a dismissal with prejudice, would it be better just to proceed with the current jury? But he acknowledged that, there are different opinions on that, and everybody has their own interests that they're representing in terms of their clients. So there could be conflicts there. But do you anticipate any kind of dueling opinions on that moving forward from the defense?
No, I don't really. I don't anticipate that. I think you could see multiple motions for a mistrial that differ from each other in their grounds, or have some overlapping, some not overlapping. I think we're all taking we all have our own approaches. And I don't know how many motions for mistrial, but I know that I won't be the only one seeking mistrial.
Yes. So I mean, I guess it's a big question for us of, are these going to continue being streamed online? But I mean, we've had conversations before about how there seems to be a pretty good advocacy for that in Atlanta. And while it's judge's discretion, it seems like there's some lawyers already on that case that will be advocating for cameras in the courtroom. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But,
I would expect that to be the case. And I'm sorry, Meghann, I'm going to have to go now because I have court in 12 minutes.
Sure. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it so much.
Thank you, everybody. See you later. Bye, Meghann.
Thank you. All right. That's cool that they're so willing to join in. I know I've seen only a couple. I've seen a couple people be like, well, why are the lawyers talking? It's like, and I always wonder, especially in criminal cases, I mean, why can't lawyers just come out and say their client's innocent? I mean, I think sometimes lawyers do talk too much, like they shouldn't in the very beginning, making their client available or something. But I always kind of cringe when somebody's like charged with a crime initially and the lawyers are all just like, no comment. It's like, you can't just say this is bullshit. I think there's a balance there, but I definitely don't think there's any like harm to their clients to be coming out and just talking. Like, it just depends on what they're saying. But if they can show, restraint, which definitely they do. Like anyone who watched the interview with Max Shard yesterday, he definitely adhered to that. He's not just going to, talk about everything or answer everything, but he even acknowledged that he needs to, it's not about him. It's about his clients. So, but yeah, just the fact that they talk, I definitely don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it actually helps their clients. So yeah. So again, we're all just kind of in a holding pattern to see what happens with these judges. And being on California time, I woke up and actually Joseph texted me that Ingram was out. But here, let's pull up Joseph's order here. Yeah, I see someone saying mistrial is not a win. And it's interesting because that's basically what Max Shard said yesterday. I mean, if they can't get a dismissal with prejudice, is it really in their best interest to start over? And I mean, you guys just heard Weinstein basically say that he doesn't think the trial should continue as is, but Max had a little bit of a different view. Although Weinstein is admittedly the more experienced attorney, he's just older than Max, but they just have different. You wonder what Brian Steele thinks of it too. It'd be great if we could get Brian Steele on it. But yeah, I see Blue Skies asks, what if all the judges recuse? And the thing is, the scary thing is, I don't think all 28 judges are going to recuse. But if you get enough recusals, it's like you're going to get stuck with a horrible judge. Like, and not just bad in terms of his ruling, but just like look at this judge's background and think if this is somebody you want on like an organized crime case involving rappers, But let's see.
I'm not sure I understand.
Siri's getting pissed off. Here, let me pull up the ruling on my phone and read it. You guys have it on the screen here, but I mean, I still don't see how the trial can just continue like as is. I mean, this is kind of an unprecedented decision to have a judge removed from the case, like in the middle of it like that. But I just don't see how another judge could just take over with the same jury. Fulton has 20 judges. I thought they had like 27 when I looked at the case and counted them. Let me pull up the ruling here. Says on or about June 1st, 2023, Christian Eppinger. This is Briss. People who watched earlier in the trial heard some testimony about Briss, saw some pictures of him. Briss was severed from the ongoing YSL RICO trial on the criminal action that was recently transferred to this court by random assignment. Although there is no severance order in the record, the court was apprised of the circumstances that directly led to Eppinger's severance. More specifically, the deputy assigned to and responsible for the courtroom and personal security of the undersigned for nearly 6 months was arrested. Said deputy, who is still assigned to this court at the time of her arrest, is accused of 1, colluding with defendant Eppinger during the current trial to commit a felony, and 2, endangering the safety of the citizens within the Fulton County Courthouse. Because this court's former assigned deputy could be called as a witness in any future proceedings in this case, the court may be called to assess the deputy's credibility or rule on matters related to her criminal prosecution. This may undermine the public's confidence in the impartiality of the proceedings. While the court does not regard the aforementioned situation as creating any actual bias for or against any party to this case, the court does view this as a matter that could cause a reasonable person to question the court's impartiality and reasonably give rise to the appearance, going into the second page here, the appearance of impropriety should the court remain on the case. Rule 2.11 of the Georgia Code of Judicial Conduct provides that, quote, judges shall disqualify themselves in any proceeding in which their impartiality might reasonably be questioned. Commentary 2 to that rule provides that judges, quote, should disclose on the record or in open court information that the court believes the parties or their lawyers might consider relevant to the questions of disqualification, even if they believe there is no legal basis for disqualification. Thus, after careful consideration and consistent with SGC Rule 1.2a, promoting public confidence in the independence and impartiality of the judiciary, and CJC Rule 2.11a, requiring disqualification when the public might reasonably question a judge's impartiality, the undersigned hereby recuses herself from the criminal action. The clerk of the court is directed to reassign this criminal action to another judge. And this was dated this morning. So, like I said, I woke up to her recusing, and then within a couple of hours, it had been assigned to Paige Whitaker. Paige Reese Whitaker, the new judge here. So let's see here. Here she is. Duke University School of Law. I wonder if she knows Max. I think he went to Duke School of Law. He either that or Duke undergrad. I asked him yesterday. I can't remember off the top of my head, but former prosecutor, Board of Governors of the State Bar of Georgia, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, but again, I've always thought that the inherent problem with this case is it's just so freaking big. It's just kind of inherently unfair for that. So I'm not sure if like a new judge is, I mean, how's she going to like be able to control that or like change that, you know? I don't know. But overall, I think people are fine with it. It's just a big question of, you know, what happens, like what is, I mean, I can't imagine any judge being like, oh yeah, it makes sense to just bring the jury back and continue testimony. That seems kind of crazy. It seems inevitable that there's going to be a mistrial, but you know, we're kind of in uncharted territories here, as Max Shard was talking about yesterday. I need to clip out some more of his interview, but let me bring up the clip of him yesterday. I clipped out him talking about, you know, is it really in the best interest of the defendants, of his client, Shannon Stillwell, to start over?
All I know as far as what's upcoming. I know that certain motions have been filed. I know that certain motions are likely to be filed in the near future, but as far as the time frame of everything, I really don't have any additional information.
Yeah, I mean, it like Doug Weinstein said yesterday that he plans to request a mistrial and for bail, but then I've also heard some discussion about you know, the benefits. What's the best thing for the defendants? Is there a way to continue the trial? That just seems impossible to me, that the trial would continue under another judge. Do you have any thoughts on that?
We are in a very unique situation, and most of the case law out there, when you seek guidance on these issues, a lot of these issues don't come up. Like earlier in the case, this is an example. Earlier in the case, we had a juror that changed their residence and moved to another county. and we were trying to figure out, well, we understand that a juror has to be a resident of Fulton County at the time of jury selection, but what happens if a juror moves mid-trial? And then you say, well, you should be able to find a case about that. But then you think, well, most cases in the criminal arena are 1 week long. So
Yeah.
like, what juror would move during the week they're having jury duty? So this case in the length creates new situations that are a little unknown. So we're going to be looking into that, but I can't imagine that there's that much case law out there regarding this type of situation, just because it's so unique in the amount of time that this case is taking.
Yeah, because it seems like, I mean, a mistrial is a benefit. I mean, the defense is the one that's always asking for a mistrial, but it also seems like, and Doug Weinstein has been upfront about this, that your end goal is an acquittal. You don't just want to have to restart the trial again. You want to get a not guilty verdict from the jury. And it seems like, just from somebody who's been watching from afar, the complex charges, like the murder charges, the RICO charges, the RICO charge, it just seems impossible to get any kind of conviction on that based on what they've presented. So because of that, is there kind of a unique interest in trying to see this continue under the current jury?
You know, that's a great question. As far as I'm concerned, we're winning the trial. As far as I'm concerned, none of the testimony has touched us. It's touched my client, in particular, Shannon Stillwell, but it's touched anyone in any meaningful way. So from that perspective, you don't really want to start over. But at the same time, if something happened that is wrong, you don't want to just let it slide either. And so that's the conundrum that we're facing, is what do we want to happen? And I don't know this for a fact, but there's however many attorneys representing 6 different defendants with their clients may have different interests. So I don't know. I'm looking out for Mr. Stillwell. I'm still thinking everything through. And then the other additional aspect of this is, can you get me the chart? Mm-hmm. The other additional aspect of this is, we feel that there's been error already baked into this case. So I'm certainly going for an acquittal, but at the same time, I don't know. And Attorney Steele said that in his motion. At this point, I don't know what convictions could stand appellate review at this point. So there's a lot of different considerations. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. So there you go. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked out that interview, check it out. I got to go through and do some more clips like that and do some highlights, but we really covered a lot of ground on there. And so yeah, that was just me replaying a bit from yesterday's live interview. But yeah, so it just kind of represents the interest. And you see this in multi-defendant cases. You know, the defendants don't always have the same interests. And I mean, sometimes they do, and overall they do, but there's been incidents throughout the trial of, I can't remember specifically what it was, but I remember one request, like Brian Steele made the request, but Max Shard was definitely opposed because their clients just have different interests. Like Max Shard's client is Shannon Stillwell, and his involvement in the case, and the facts against him are a little different than Young Thug. So it's interesting because I think he was kind of taking us through the logic on that, and it shows how, you know, the law seems like it would just be totally objective all the time. I mean, it seems like it's supposed to be because it's the law, and in some areas it is, but the whole job of being a lawyer is so, you know, subjective. Like you're arguing different things, you're trying to make arguments stick. Some is more, you know, obviously going to fail than others, but you know, it's just like kind of an art form of argument and thinking. And, you're trying to think through what is actually best for your client here. And in kind of an unprecedented situation like this, like, because I can definitely see Max's thinking on that. It's like, why do you want to start over? And if they could get the case dismissed with prejudice, that's one thing, but I think that's going to be hard. And when you look at the way Judge Krause wrote that order, because she really stayed away from saying anything bad about that ex parte meeting. And if she had gone after the prosecutors for stuff that was said in that meeting or anything like that, it would make it more likely that they could get a dismissal with prejudice, because dismissals with prejudice really has to do with like prosecutorial misconduct. If they can get some kind of prosecutorial misconduct finding, it would be really strong. But she just stayed away from that whole thing and found her own way to recuse Glanville over his defense of that, over his defense of the meeting. So, I mean, the idea that that prosecutors would just start over if there was a mistrial, like if the mistrial and then the case is dismissed with prejudice, they can just refile. But it just seems unlikely that it's just going to go away as is. So I mean, I definitely see Max's thinking on that. And it's like, why is it actually in their benefit to start over? But then I can definitely see the other attorneys being like, whoa, like there's been so many errors in this case. If they can get a mistrial, they need to take it. But I just, I just wonder, because I feel like the outcome of that is everybody sits in jail for a few more months and then there's another trial. I mean, unless they can get bail, but there's just so many questions here. It's just interesting to kind of hear attorneys in the process of litigation, like try to talk about like, what is the best thing here? What are they going to do? And it still remains to be seen whether we're going to have conflicting requests like that. I mean, Max wasn't completely sure that he's not going to be on board with starting over. He's just kind of thinking like, is it actually in our best interest here? So we'll see. We'll see. But for those of who are just joining in or just catching up, we had another judge wheel rotation this morning. Judge Ingram was assigned this morning, but or she was assigned, what was it, yesterday or Monday after she was assigned Monday afternoon after Glanville was kicked off the case. But now she's recused herself from the case, and there's another judge here. So let me pull up and pull up her order here. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I've been enjoying doing these lives. There's so much interest on the case now. And I'm glad people are on here. I'm kind of focusing more on YouTube and TikTok, obviously, because Twitter, I mean, it's always been kind of bad under Elon, but I swear, has anybody been watching Twitter in the last couple of months and just noticed how it's just become a bunch of Elon bros like auditioning to be state media? I swear that's what it is. Like every time I look on there, I'm like, oh God, Twitter sucks. But somebody asked if this is the wildest trial, blue skies. It's hard to say. It's definitely the most dysfunctional and dumb trial I've seen. But the wildest trial I saw was the Kobe Bryant's crash photos trial in LA federal court. That was a really, really good trial. The lawyers on both sides were really good. The judge was really good. Everything. But just the facts of the case were just freaking crazy. Because this is one of those annoying trials where like the wildness and craziness of the case it's just all this extraneous stuff that like the lawyers and the judge is just like, it's all just invented by them, you know, like the prosecutors and everything. They invent the craziness and the wildness. It's not just the facts of the case. But yeah, the Kobe Bryant's crash photos trial had a retired fire lieutenant, one of the guys who hiked up to the crash scene and took a bunch of photos up there, even though they served like no legitimate investigative purpose. He just wanted to get a bunch of gross photos of bodies. He like left the witness stand in the middle of his testimony. He just like got up and left and actually wasn't held in contempt. It was kind of amazing, but came back after a couple of minutes, but he was like, I'm so stressed. I got to leave right now. I'm like, what? I'd never seen that before. But like I said, that was a really, really, really good trial. The attorneys were really good. The judge was really good. And it wasn't about like the process. Like it was just all about the facts of the case, the testimony, what happened here, no fights between the lawyers and the, judge and screaming matches and everything. It was just all about the facts of the case. It was like 10-day trial or something, I think. 7-day trial, if I remember. But anyway, here's this is Shukura Ingram. Somebody was asking if she's related to Deputy Ingram, who we hear in Judge Glanville's courtroom. I have no idea. So yeah, she 2018 Magistrate Court of Fulton County seems to be a common pipeline to the bench. I think if I remember correctly, Judge Glanville was in Magistrate Court for a bit. So was Fonnie Willis. Let me pull up her order here again. Yeah, so for those of us, for those who are just joining us, the news is that we've now got another judge on the Young Thug YSL trial. Judge Shukura Ingram was assigned the case after Judge Glanville was kicked off on Monday, but she's now said that she shouldn't be on the case either because actually her former courtroom deputy is the deputy who was arrested for having an alleged inappropriate relationship with one of the YSL defendants. This is Christian Eppinger, Briss. He's not currently on trial, but his case was severed because of this whole incident with the courthouse deputy who is accused of conspiring with him, threatening courthouse safety by colluding with Briss to commit a felony. So the judge was saying that because her former deputy, pretty clearly she got fired after she got arrested for this and is not a courtroom deputy anymore, but she could be called as a witness in this, and because of that, the judge could actually be called as a witness. So we've got a new judge on the case. I want to say what's up to Nick at Night. Nick, what's up? How's it going? We got to do like a dual live or something, but I have actually been meaning to text message you because I hope you know what's coming up. We are like less than 2 months away from the third doll trial. T.I. and Tiny in the OMG Girls. That trial is freaking happening. There is going to be there's like a pretrial conference next month that just got delayed a month, but this is the trial. I don't know if anyone remembers, but the OMG Girls sued the Bratz doll makers. No. Oh gosh, there's so many cases to like keep track of in your head, but the T.I. and Tiny in Zonique sued the doll company MGA over the dolls that they say are modeled after the OMG Girls, and they lost at the last trial, but they were awarded a new trial, and now it's coming up. It's like September 5th or something. It's supposed to start. So it's funny that Neek dropped in on my live because, like I said, I've been meaning to text you and been like, I hope I'm saving you a front row seat for that trial. So yeah, so awesome, Neek. I hope you're going to be able to make it over to Santa Ana for that one. I'm actually in LA now. I moved up to LA, so I'm going to have to take a metro down there, but it's definitely going to be worth it. I think it's going to be the same time as the freaking Hunter Biden trial in LA, which if Politico pays me to cover the Biden trial, I'll cover it. But it's kind of one of those trials where stay away from it. There's going to be so many people covering it. It's going to be a total nightmare. You don't actually want to cover the Hunter Biden trial. And if there's another trial like the third OMG Girls trial going on and T.I. and Tiny are going to be at the federal courthouse down in Santa Ana, I know where I'd rather be. So yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Nick, she says she forgot that one was coming up again. But yeah, it's just like I remember hearing they were getting a third trial. It was like back in November or something, the order was issued, and I'm like, oh, the third trial isn't going to be till September. But in the back of my head, I've been doing this long enough that when you get enough cases going on and enough dates going on, it all starts coming pretty fast. You forget about it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, here's the case again. Like, so yeah. So what else? Oh, let me pull up that. Here's the new judge, Paige Reese Whitaker, Duke University School of Law grad. She's a Blue Devil, just like Max Shard. But let's pull up that. Let's pull up that flyer that Thugger Daily brought up. I'm always reminded when I see like the other coverage, because other people are great on this, and especially him. He has good reporting instincts, but it's the importance of a newsroom. You know, sometimes this stuff just becomes way too much for one person to cover. But bring it up here. You know, somebody was saying yesterday that I need to get a moderator. And yeah, because I mean, I've got 345 watching right now, and it is distracting to look at the comments. And I see some stuff like believe me, nobody's comments are getting deleted right now. I'm not doing anything like that. But I know my friend Shadra would be happy to get in the chat and be a moderator. I just kind of got to get her set up for that. But yeah, so this is 2022 when she was last reelected. And like I said, it appears to be the judicial races in Georgia appear to be a little more political than California, in that the campaigns that I see for judge races in California are for open seats. Like it's a DA and a public defender who've both never been judges before, and they're running for a seat, as opposed to most of the seats are filled by appointment, and an incumbent judge isn't really challenged very much because. And the people who do challenge incumbent judges are always just kind of nobodies who lose. So you don't see a lot of like fundraisers or anything like that in California for incumbent judges. It generally, sometimes you might, but so I was surprised to see how like active their reelection campaigns are here. But there's nothing wrong with this. And somebody asked on TikTok if perhaps she was going to feel like she needed to recuse because, you know, you see David Botts, he's the grandpa we were talking about yesterday with Max Shard, Bruce Harvey, which reminds me, I need to email him and see if he'd like to talk. And isn't Brian Steele on here? In case you guys don't know, I have bad eyesight, but yeah, there he is. And so somebody was asking, like, would she feel like she needs to recuse because these guys hosted her reelection campaign, and that's the case. I can say in California that if that was the case, all the judges would have to recuse because there's so many attorneys who throw their hat in for the elections for these or show their support for various DAs or something who are running for the open seats. That if she felt she needed to recuse herself from a case just because one of the attorneys on the case like attended her campaign party or something like that, she would like not have any cases, you know, like if she had to recuse herself from cases involving any of these attorneys, it's just it doesn't get to that. And I think sometimes the judges, you know, these guys they're all nerds and kind of intellectual heavyweights, or they fancy themselves as. So I think the idea that they could get the idea that they could be persuaded or that they're going to rule against the law and just in favor of somebody because 2 years ago this person was at their campaign party, like they find it insulting, you know, and they think that they can, like we saw that with Judge Krause when she declined to recuse herself over the $2,000 donation. I mean, legally she just didn't need to at all, but and there's also the aspect of you know, it's going to take a lot more than a $2,000 donation from Judge Glanville to buy her on the judiciary, you know. So I think this is, if anything, the most interesting thing about this is just the fact that they all like her. Like it's a good testament to her as a judge, and that doesn't mean that, you know, she's ruled in their favor every single freaking time, because it's just impossible that you're going to get somebody who does that all the time. So, but it just means it's a testament to her fairness that she has somebody, you know, Brian Steele and David Botts and Bruce Harvey are a lot older than Brian Steele. They're a lot more experienced. Maybe not a lot more. Well, Bruce Harvey definitely is, but they've all been around the block, you know. For them to be showing support for her, I think it's a good sign for her reputation. But of course, one thing to remember is, I mean, I don't think Judge Glanville had like a bad reputation before he got on this case. I think he had the same kind of reputation. It just, to really get into a judge's reputation, though, you have to be pretty entrenched in the actual legal community and know a lot of attorneys who practice before him and kind of hopefully know what some of the other judges say about him. But it was interesting. I was talking with a friend. She's a retired court clerk, and she actually contacted me right after on June 10th when all the ex parte stuff came to light and everything, and told me, she's like, how inappropriate it was. Like, she couldn't believe that they did that, and that the defense definitely should have been notified. And then she messaged me again today, and she's like, yeah, I saw your story, like, about Glanville getting recused. And she's like, definitely that whole ex parte thing was inappropriate, but she was still like shocked the judge got recused. But I'm like, and really the recusal order was not over the ex parte. Like, the judge just straight up said that she generally agreed with Glanville on the propriety of that. It was what happened afterward. But my friend, the former court clerk, just said it's so rare to get a recusal. And yeah, and that's what somebody else said. The judge that I sent the transcript to, who in California, and he read it himself and said that he thought it went way beyond like anything that would have happened in his chambers. He told me too, he's like, wow, recusal is rare, like, kind of no matter what happens. So, but I do wonder, it just feels like there's kind of a different culture in the South. I mean, Georgia's a deep red Southern state, and it seems like the judiciary has gotten very politicized over there. They're doing a lot of, I mean, it's just you just wonder how much politics plays a role in this, because I think we've seen that for sure in the Fani Willis prosecution of Trump, and I just wonder what the political background of the prosecution of the Young Thug case is, because God, it's such a nightmare of a case. It's just way too big. But let me see what else we got here. Here she is again. Somebody, I feel like I saw, there's so much information out there, but I feel like I saw something somewhere that said she actually had a pretty light caseload. I think that was Joseph. Because one thing is, what a judge is currently doing right now is going to matter. I mean, it's not like their days are just open books, just waiting to be filled by by whatever case comes along. She could have her trial calendar filled out for the next few months. I mean, you would kind of assume that they would, So the idea that she could just wipe all that off and yeah, where's her schedule here? I think you got to pull up the schedule like else. Presiding weekly courtroom assignments. Yeah, I don't see her on here. I'm a little unfamiliar with how the court calendar works here. Yeah, let me pull up another segment here. Just I'm gonna play the. Did you guys see Mr. Kokomo on the interview with Max Shard? I thought that was cool. Being able to like put voices to the people that you see on TV. But it's cool. He's going to law school, and they were showing me the LSAT book. But here, let me play that for you guys. I'll like pull up some of the celebrity himself, the worldwide celebrity.
Man,
Explain to
female
us
viewership is skyrocketed.
Exactly. No, people are stoked. So you are the evidence guy. You're the exhibit guy, more like the technology guy. What's your official job title?
So for sure, I'm a legal assistant. I worked with Max. I've known Max for at least, I want to say 6 or 7 years.
I think longer than that.
Yeah, I met in high school. I worked with this program which paired me with Max. I've always wanted to be a defense attorney, so they put me at the Fulton County's public defender's office as a legal assistant, and I've been working with Max ever since. And I ended up going to Georgia State University, studied political science, graduated from there, and now I'm going to law school next year. So right now I'm studying for the LSAT. So during this trial, I've been while y'all were doing that, I was kind of studying a little.
Yeah, well, it seems like with a decent LSAT score and all your experience, you should have a lot of doors open for you. I mean, they should be clamoring to try to get you get you to sign up. But
Hopefully,
so what's the
definitely.
plan? I mean, how many cases do you have to work on? Is there kind of a relief that there's a pause right now because you've got such a other caseload to get to, or what do you do?
There is, you know, I have been so unbelievably surprised and it I thought when I was involved in this case, I have some clients that are in jail. And if I was in jail and my attorney was involved in this case, I would feel a certain way. I've gone to see my clients again and again and again and say, you're important too, but I just can't try your case right now. These are people awaiting trial. And the grace and understanding that my clients have shown has really been shocking. And, some of them say, oh, we see you on TV, man. We see you on TV. You're doing your thing. And it's just blown me away how understanding some of my other clients have been. It makes me sad that I'm not able to actively try their case at this moment, but it's just been. And the other thing is the other judges, especially in Fulton County, they have caseloads. They have reports that say how many cases are open. They have to deal with families sometimes showing up in court complaining things taking too long, alleged victims complaining things have taken too long, and the judges in Fulton County have been unbelievably kind and understanding to me through this process, and I really appreciate that. And they haven't given me a hard time at all. They know where I've been, but it's that's made the whole process a lot easier. But yes, I am working on my clients' cases along with this case. Right now, I had court this morning. I was able to obtain the release of 2 of my clients. So that was great. And so I'm just continuing to move forward and trying to use this time wisely.
Yeah, congratulations. Were those bail motions or how did
Yeah, they were bond motions.
Yeah, I saw Doug Weinstein commented on Twitter a while back. I think he'd gotten bond for a defendant, and that it was just the kind of night and day difference between that process and the process he'd gone through with YSL. Because I actually just did an interview with Dateline NBC's podcast is doing something on this, and I was trying to explain the bond process, but it happened really before I started covering the trial. I mean, there was an initial bond hearing and then a reconsideration, but was there anything after that? I mean, it was kind of thought to be a lost cause after that with Glanville.
Other than one of the individuals, Miles Farley, he was granted bond later on. But you said something important that I want to go back to. So you're telling me that Doug Weinstein was on Instagram bragging about getting one of his clients released. Is that what you're telling me?
Twitter. It was something like that. I remember he was contrasting it with like it's so nice to be in a court where justice prevails or something, and his client can be out preparing for trial or
humble bragging. I'm gonna have to talk to Doug about. I'm gonna confront him about that.
Yeah, well, I one question I have to ask you. I think you're on Twitter active as Max something, but when I first looked you up, when I was looking up all the attorneys on opening statements day, I saw the not guilty ATL handle for Twitter, and it's like been dormant since 2011. But I'm like, what can you do to get that account back? That's a pretty good handle.
Yeah, well, that's what I was told. I signed up for that when I knew nothing about Twitter, and I just made that my name. And then people that knew more said, "Oh, that's a great handle." And then I didn't even know how to tweet. So that was from many years ago. So maybe I need to start with that. But if you follow me, I'm into legal stuff. Sometimes I don't talk too much, but I'm mostly about the New York Knicks.
Okay.
So
so yeah, I'll spare you our baseball talk there. But I put that up because I was trying to go use my wizard Google skills to pull up the court calendar, because Fulton County Superior Court, their case calendar should just be online somewhere, but because I'd like to just pull up her calendar and look through it, but I can't find it off the top of my head or real quick. But let's pull up her page again. This is the new judge assigned to the case. Standing order for criminal cases. That would apply to this. But this isn't going to be very insightful, honestly. It's just going to be like kind of procedural stuff. Yeah, promptly and completely reply. Yeah, I mean, this just, it doesn't really give us any insight into, okay, when is she going to be in court next? Is she going to declare a mistrial? Is she just, you just don't know. But like, I do not see how the trial could continue as is. I definitely understand Max's argument that maybe it actually is in the best interest of the defendants to just have the trial continue as is. But it just seems impossible that that would actually happen. But who knows? This is uncharted territory here. And yeah, I mean, I'd love to see. I'm interested to see the briefings on this, the mistrial briefings, to see what is the case law regarding a judge change in the middle of trial like this. Chances are it has happened somewhere. I've never heard of it, but I can't imagine it's happened that many times. You know, that's what the law clerks and the lawyers are paid to do, to research all that stuff. But because I was interested when I was reading Judge Krause's recusal order against Glanville, just how well established the case law in Georgia seems to be about Glanville not being able to defend himself against that stuff. Like when there's a recusal motion against the judge, the Georgia case law is really well established that the judges can't say anything in their defense. It says, you know, even if the accusations are defamatory, they're just not supposed to say anything about that. And in the recusal motions, we didn't really see that argument at all. But Judge Krause brought out, she basically came up with her own reason to recuse him on that. But I'm kind of getting into some older stuff here. But again, the news is today that Judge Ingram has recused herself from the Young Thug YSL case. She was assigned after Judge Glanville was kicked off, but it turns out her former courtroom deputy is the deputy who was arrested for having an inappropriate relationship with Chris Eppinger, one of the defendants in the case. So his case was severed, but because the overall indictment was assigned to her, if she did Young Thug's trial and then theoretically it ended and then Briss went on trial, she would be the judge on Briss's case. And if her former courtroom deputy was called to testify in that, she could also be called as a witness because she was her supervisor. And so she could testify about various things related to that. So this is Judge Shukura Ingram's reasoning for recusing herself. I mean, you can't imagine, excuse me, she was too upset about having to recuse herself. I mean, it seems like any judge in that courthouse, if they could find a reason to recuse, would, because why would you want this case in your courtroom? I mean, at any point, but especially after everything that happened with it. You know, this is Shukura Ingram, the one whose former courtroom deputy was allegedly messing around with Chris Eppinger. So the case goes to Paige Whitaker, and that has been the case all morning. We haven't heard any kind of change from her about whether she's going to recuse herself. And the only thing we've seen is that several defense attorneys, including Brian Steele, Bruce Harvey, David Botts, all supported her reelection campaign. There's a flyer that actually that Thugger Daily account found that shows them in 2022 hosting a fundraiser campaign event for her. But the idea that she would feel she needs to recuse herself from that, no way. It's just so common that attorneys organize events like this. Like if every judge recused herself from cases involving attorneys who went to their campaign reelection event, you know, they'd have to recuse themselves from everything. So I think there's a pretty good chance that she remains the judge on the case, but we kind of thought that about Judge Ingram because we didn't know that her former courtroom deputy was the deputy in the Chris Eppinger episode. So it remains to be seen what's actually going to happen. But as Doug Weinstein said earlier for the replay crew earlier, that we should see something by the end of the week. I mean, it seems like we're going to hear some kind of action, some kind of scheduling conference. Something's going to be scheduled for us to get some action here. So that is the big news here. And one thing is on another topic. One thing is getting a lot of attention on Twitter that I can talk about is the latest on the Jennifer Huff. Excuse me. Oh yeah, the sexual assault lawsuit against Kenneth Petty. He no-showed his deposition. But it's a little unclear whether they were given forewarning that they were here. So we've got an update on the lawsuit against Nicki Minaj's husband, Kenneth Petty. This is the sexual assault lawsuit related to his rape conviction from when he was a teenager. The victim's lawyer in that case is saying that he actually cut off her July 9th deposition. The plaintiff was taking a deposition from Kenneth Petty's lawyer, but her lawyer cut it off because he thought the questions were harassing. And one of the questions was about whether she was conspiring with the federal government. And there were some other questions about Hollywood and movies. So her lawyer cuts off that deposition on July 9th. And then fast forward to yesterday, July 16th, Kenneth Petty, Nicki Minaj's husband, is scheduled to do his own deposition with the plaintiff's lawyer, and he doesn't show up. So now her lawyer, Tyrone Blackburn, who's involved in a lot of other cases, filed a letter with the court in Eastern District of New York and Brooklyn Federal Court, asking the judge to intervene. He wants the judge to basically force Kenneth Petty to go to the deposition and to pay for the costs incurred by the plaintiff's lawyers from scheduling this deposition yesterday that Kenneth Petty didn't show up to. And this is the letter right here that I tweeted out. But I've noticed that anything Nicki Minaj related, especially on Twitter, gets tons of attention. But there's a lot of questions amongst her fans and just amongst the hip hop world about like what exactly is going on with this case. I think some people say the case has been dismissed, that kind of thing, but it's definitely not been dismissed. They're in the discovery deposition phase, obviously, as this letter indicates. And Petty was supposed to sit for a deposition yesterday and didn't. So the judge assigned to this, who got the letter yesterday, did order them to a hearing on July 31st. Here's the order. It's Magistrate Judge James Cho in Brooklyn. He's ordered Petty's lawyer to respond by July 24th. This is to the filing about him missing his deposition yesterday. And then a hearing is scheduled July 31st to decide what to do. So that's the latest on that lawsuit there. If you go to my Twitter, I've got a link to some background story on the complaint, but this is the amended complaint against Nicki Minaj's husband, Kenneth Petty, for sex assault. She was initially a defendant in the lawsuit, but she's been dismissed, so it's just against him. But this is over a 1994 incident in which he pleaded guilty to attempted rape, and this is the reason that he has to register as a sex offender. Kenneth Petty does, and he was actually prosecuted in federal court in Los Angeles for failing to register and is on probation for that. And that's what led to him being put on house arrest over his threats with Offset. I don't know if you all remember that. Last year, it was kind of a big dust up one weekend, and he ended up being on, I think, house arrest for 60 days or something because of related to that. Related to him being on the street threatening Offset. But yeah, if you guys go to my Twitter or legalaffairsandtrials.com, you can see everything here. So it doesn't look like any resolution in sight at all to the lawsuit if they're still just in the discovery deposition phase. But this is what the plaintiff's lawyers allege happened in the deposition. towards the end of the deposition, the defendant's counsel began harassing the plaintiff. This is the woman who Kenneth Petty pleaded guilty to attempting to rape back in 1994 when they were teenagers. And she sued in the last few years because this had all come out related to his failure to register as a sex offender and his being on the sex offender registry. Her lawsuit claims that she's been harassed over this, and she's been, told by Nicki Minaj's team to withdraw and to withdraw her claims over this. So the lawsuit is related to that. It's been kind of festering in federal courts for a couple of years, but the news yesterday was that Kenneth Petty didn't show up to his deposition. So the plaintiff's lawyer is trying to get his deposition compelled and get him forced to pay the fees here. But it looks like there were some questions about why exactly he didn't show up, because the deposition that did happen on July 9th was with the plaintiff, and it sounds like the plaintiff's lawyer says he cut it off early here. Let me pause here. I'll be right back. So yeah, again, the news is that Kenneth Petty, who's married to Nicki Minaj, didn't show up for his deposition yesterday in a federal lawsuit in New York related to his 1994 attempted rape case in which he pleaded guilty. The victim in that case is suing him, and she actually sat for a deposition back on July 9th that was cut off early. Her lawyer says in this letter that he felt the questions were becoming harassing to her, so he cut her off. Fast forward to yesterday when Kenneth Petty was supposed to sit for his own deposition. He didn't show up. And the plaintiff's lawyer has written a letter to the judge explaining this and asking for an order to compel Kenneth Petty to sit for his deposition. And he also wants him ordered to pay for the costs of setting up this deposition that didn't happen yesterday. So this letter was filed in the Eastern District of New York, Brooklyn Federal Court yesterday, and he's asking for the judge to intervene. We haven't heard from Kenneth Petty's lawyer about what his response to this is, but the judge today gave him until July 24th to respond, as it says here. And then July 31st, there is going to be a hearing at the Brooklyn Federal Courthouse. So by a week from today, we'll see a response from Kenneth Petty's lawyer about why he didn't show up for the deposition. And just reading through the letter from the plaintiff's lawyer, I'm imagining we're going to be hearing a lot about, alleged inappropriate behavior or alleged obstruction by the plaintiff's lawyer in the first deposition that the defense lawyer somehow thinks, justifies him not participating in another deposition. But I think it just shows how contentious this case is and all that's going on with it. But also, it underscores that this is an active case. Like anybody who says this case has been dismissed or isn't going on, they're wrong. It is currently going on. It's been going on forever, and it's kind of dragging on, but it's going on. When they're sitting for depositions, that's when stuff's getting serious, guys. So stay tuned for more news on that, and obviously stay tuned for more news on the YSL trial. I need to go through the interviews and clip out more highlights from Max's interview and Doug's interview. But I'd like to be able to jump on here, whenever there's some breaking news to try to explain it to you, just like the judge changes this morning. So anyway, I will see you guys later, and thank you so much for tuning in.